Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us for episode 3 of our 4-part series brought to you by Angel City FC in partnership with Curateur. I'm your host, Robyn Ward. I'm a coach to entrepreneurs and executives, aka elite business athletes, through my company Founder Forward, and I'm also a proud Angel City investor. To recap, as we're on episode 3, our first 2 episodes were how to know when to take the leap and how to create a movement. We've got something super special here for episode 3. We have a special guest who's ready to engage in some entrepreneurial real talk. We're going to discuss her foray into entrepreneurship, lessons learned along the way, and even get some practical advice for those of you out there who are thinking about but haven't quite made the entrepreneurial leap. So a little bit more about today's guest. She's a Los Angeles native, forward of Angel City Football Club, winner of World Cups and Olympic gold medals, and now co-founder and chief executive officer of Re-Inc. Hello and welcome, Christen Press.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so excited. Thank you so much. You play soccer and you run a business, so we know that you're very busy. We'll get right to it. In ACFC speak, I believe we say LFG. So we are going to LFG, your game. Okay, so I think it was 2019 that you officially launched Re-Inc. alongside some names that everybody that's going to watch and listen to this probably know and love. Tell us about your origin story. How did Re-Inc. come about?
I love telling the Re-Inc. origin story because it really is so much passion that fueled this business. And yes, we launched in 2019, but I think the origins of this company started in 2015. And that was a moment for a lot of us on the U.S. Women's National Team where our lives changed. And we won that World Cup, and we went from, athletes that were fighting for recognition and fighting for like kind of a small piece in a very competitive sports landscape to people that were known and had influence on the world. And we came back from that World Cup and our lives were different. We were stopped on the streets. People wanted to hear from us. And I wasn't expecting that. You never see it when you're like looking forward, but looking back, everything changed like overnight. And at the same time, we felt that the structure of women's soccer at that time in 2015 didn't really allow us to attain our true value as influential people and culture creators and individual brands. And we were stuck in this kind of status quo business structure where we were being paid in a collective bargaining agreement that we didn't think was our true value, and there was no way to change that. So step 1 was relaunching our Players Association for the U.S. Women's National Team. And the 4 of us, Megan, Tobin, and myself, were really playing key roles in the re-up of our Players Association. And that in itself was starting a business. It really felt like that. We had a PA, we had a couple bylaws, but we started from the beginning. We rewrote everything. We had to get everybody together. And that was the time of my life where I started to learn how to use Google Docs and make spreadsheets and lead. And we are really proud of the work that we've done. Our Players Association is super strong now. But at some point, the group of us that decided to start Re-Inc., we wanted something more. And the Players Association's role is to protect the rights of the players and kind of work within the structure of soccer. And we wanted to create something that's really infinite. And we looked around at what was capturing the hearts of so many people in our soccer story. And it really was the confidence that the team had, the self-actualization that people were seeing in us when we would win games and come back, that people were falling in love with. And it was our pay equity fight. It was our social impact and the things that the team represented that people wanted to hear from us about. And so Re-Inc. became our vehicle where we could connect with those people and talk about issues and create impact and create artistically and express ourselves and kind of bring down the barrier between athlete an audience between athlete and community. And in that space, between 2015 and 2019, that's when Reinc was born.
That's an amazing origin story. There's a lot of backstory and a lot of purpose behind the brand. And on our last session, we had Angel City boss Julie Ehrman and Curateur founder and serial entrepreneur Rachel Zoe. And we talked about this idea of, before they really got into the business building of it all, they thought about the brand building really as a movement and a movement building. And it sounds to me like Reinc sort of is in a similar vein. Talk to me and tell me a little bit more about how you think about purpose and driving a movement and creating the business.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, we see ourselves and our business as just a part of a movement that's already there. I believe that so many people already want change. They're already trying to create change. So what we're doing every Inc. is trying to make that easier for people. So we're giving them access to trustworthy leaders like ourselves that they already connect with and already feel like they know from being on the field and just like following my career for so long. And we're connecting them to other people that are also change makers that are trying to, reimagine the status quo with us. And it's this huge cultural movement that I feel and see every day as a soccer player, as an athlete of Angel City. It's so evident that it's more than a game. It's about progress, and that's what people are there for largely, to see sport meeting progress and social impact. And I think that's like the movement that we want to just elevate, and we want to bring people close together to that. I always say, like, so many of my friends would love to volunteer. They talk about wanting to go to women's shelters and do beach cleanups, but people just don't know where to get that information. And so at Reinc, we're trying to centralize that so that it's almost like on your, if it was like normally on your social media feed and you were saying like this week locally in my area, this is what's going on, you would be much more likely to participate. So within our business, we have brought together this global group of reimaginers that work on local social impact projects. And it's just about making that movement more accessible.
I love it. I love the amplification of a movement that's sort of it's been there, right? I mean, Gloria Steinem would say in general, there's a lot of a movement that's been there, but I just feel like we're really sort of seeing a push right now. Um, I'd love to expand on what Reinc is because I honestly thought that it was more of an e-com brand at the beginning. I know it takes a while to sort of present, all the things that are in the vision. And, you're mentioning these reimaginers, and I went on your site and now there's a membership. So I'd like to just maybe step back for all the people like me that see the cool gear and maybe tell us like what else the big vision is.
Yeah, I think the big vision is like business impact. We want to give people the confidence, the strength, the tools to reimagine the status quo. And that's intentionally broad because our vision for this business is huge. It's enormous. Ultimately, I want Reading to be a place where everyone can go and feel safe and get educated and connect with others so that they can create the change that they want to see in the world. So that's what Reinc is. And I think a lot of it comes from the role that soccer has played in my life in giving me influence and tools and confidence to go out and do important work that fulfills me, and recognizing that like that's a luxury. Not everybody is around world class female athletes and entrepreneurs all the time. And so how can we create a system where people have more access to that? And we do that through our community, which is a membership. And in the membership, you're getting regular content, um, you know, events with myself and other trustworthy leaders. You're getting early access to our products. You're getting connections to other reimaginers across the globe. So that kind of full picture support in your own change making, in your own reimagination. And then we obviously have our clothes. And I think our clothing line for me is really just about giving people the confidence. Like, you get dressed every day, you have to put something on. And if you're getting dressed and you're putting on something that's values first, that you believe in, like, that's a really good way to start your day. And that's a really good motivator to say, like, I'm going to make the world a better place. And we also do it through like our cultural change, and that's the content that we're putting out, the messages that we share, our newsletter. All of these things are working to give people different access points to our brand, and thus to social impact.
That's amazing, and it's a big vision, and kudos for tackling it. You touched upon some of the skills that you develop as a soccer player in helping you on the business side, and you also mentioned sort of who you know, and networking is a big piece of it. But I'm really curious, what of the skills that you learned playing soccer your whole life, playing at an elite level, that you got to sort of the boardroom and said, oh shit, these skills are really serving me over here as a business person?
Relentlessness, like number one. I think as athletes, we're exposed to horrible failure and being called out for that again and again and again. And it just makes us tough. And, if you're sitting in a meeting and your coach is playing back your game 12 hours after you were on the pitch in front of a ton of people and saying, you did this wrong, you let the team down, this has got to be better, that's like normal for us. And I think outside of that, like there's just a little bit more padding around failing and criticism. And so I've noticed in the business world, like if something goes wrong, which happens every single day in business, if not, if it's a good day, maybe you get one and then the next day something goes wrong. I've just noticed that there's a real worry that if something goes wrong, it's more it's more tangible, it's more impactful than I think it is. Like for me, like every day we fail and we continue, and then that's how we succeed. It's that you just keep going through it. And that's what a game is. You make a bad pass, you just
Yeah.
win the ball back. And sometimes people say, net, that was a great play. Like they don't even remember that you
Yeah.
lost the ball in the first pass. And that's just business to me. It's just like you see the problem, you fight for the solution, you get as far as you can, and you just go again the next day. And you can't dwell on the hiccups and the hurdles, and you just keep going. So I think like that toughness, that grit is like so important for business. And especially at a startup, you're just every single day that you survive, that you do better than the day before, like that is a huge win, and celebrate that and put your head back down and get back to work.
I love that. I would say that if you talk to any VC or person in the company building space, grit and resilience are going to be in a top 5 list of what it takes to really build a company. And so it makes so much sense to me that some of the things that have brought you such success on the pitch are translating well. So the reverse question would be, what's some new stuff that you've kind of learned on this entrepreneurial endeavor? And also, you're the chief executive officer, right? What's some new stuff that you've learned in this side of your work life that now you're going, oh, this is amazing. It's serving me on the pitch.
Hmm. So one thing I wanted to mention is one of my co-founders, a non-soccer playing co-founder, always says businesses don't run out of money, founders run out of energy. And that is like my like mantra of like relentlessness. Like you just keep going, you keep fighting. And then on the flip side, I think the biggest thing that being the leader of Re-Inc has taught me is just like that I am a leader and that I can be that on the field and in the locker room. I think soccer's funny because like your position really affects like kind of your role on the team, like off the field. And I'm a striker, and I grew up in a system where I was like a lone striker, and I always thought it was a little bit of an isolated position. I think of goalkeepers isolated and like strikers isolated, um, because no matter what happens in the game, as a forward, I try to disconnect from it so that when the ball came to me, I could do my job, which is to score. So my team could be performing poorly, but like I just need to do my job and score the goal, and then everything would work out. So I thought of myself as less of like a central force in a team environment, in a soccer environment. And now that I have business experience and every day I'm, leading meetings, I have to motivate my team. I have to know when to step in and help, and the important no, actually just let them work through it on their own, and that's really hard. But I've been able to bring that to the locker room and help people and stand up for them and be there and realize that I'm capable of more than just like my own singular role on the pitch. I'm capable of being a compassionate human that has a ton of experience, especially on my team and in this league. I'm like one of the most experienced players. So I can share that. And, sports is so competitive that like there was always this sense that like your teammates are also your competitors. Like you fight for spots, you fight for playing time. And I think just working collaboratively at Re-Inc, I've started to like open my heart to like really feel like there's so much more that I have to offer the game of football than just on-field performance.
Wow, that's really powerful. It seems like these two sort of big things in your life are really like feeding off one another, and then you're learning and integrating and sort of evolving into, a Kristen Press 2.0 or something that's pretty powerful.
When it's working, when it's at its best, that's exactly what I want. That balance and that challenge. And then some days I'm like, I can't do anything. Like this is overwhelming.
Right. I mean, listen, I coach entrepreneurs and they're all overwhelmed and they're also not playing on the pitch. Now, so let's talk about this. So entrepreneurship is hard, right? As is what soccer, but entrepreneurship is a real roller coaster. So I'm curious, and I know everybody that's listening, we get a lot of folks that tune in that have launched businesses, but on the first two, we also had a lot of folks that just were like had an idea and weren't yet ready to do the step into it. And so I think it's always important to just be really honest about like what's really hard. So like I'm just wondering on your entrepreneurial journey thus far, what has been like surprisingly difficult to you?
Gosh, that is such a hard question because so much of it is hard for me. What I love is like learning. That's what I live for. I live to like be challenged and pushed and do something new. And every single day I'm dealing with that. I think particularly starting a values first business that's trying to reimagine everything. Like Re-Inc is short for reimagine the incorporated. Like we're trying to do things our own way, and I think the hardest challenge is to do that. We meet resistance at every step. We made it an intentional decision. We are going to be as eco-responsible as we possibly can with all of our production. And that's really hard and it's expensive and it makes our price higher. And no, then our customers don't like that. And, it's just like, it's really hard because the world right now isn't set up to make clothing eco-friendly. It's made up to make it cheap and fast. So, and you can apply that to everything. Um, the status quo structure is just built a certain way, and to go against that, to walk on the road less traveled, like every single step, can be exhausting, and it's a weight on your shoulders, and it's scary too, because sometimes you feel alone, like you feel like you're alone out there, and you feel like there was a reason everybody else took the other path, and maybe you're crazy for taking this path by yourself. But that's the motivation, and I think that to do it well, to meet challenge well, you need a lot of self belief. You need a lot of belief in your vision, um, and and yeah, you have to have that fail fast mentality.
Absolutely. I mean, you just said all of the things that any entrepreneur would say were the challenges that are happening. And you expressed them so clearly. Where you started, which was just, that you love learning and that you're learning every single day. I always tell folks, uh, launching a business is just as much a personal growth engine as it is a business endeavor. Because in order to grow a business, you have to grow yourself as an
Love
entrepreneur.
that.
So it's really a phenomenal opportunity, but you have to be really clear that that's what's happening. And then you have to be intentional and you have to be game, right, to do it, which is really hard work. And not everybody, um, you know, has either the stamina and or sort of the resilience to do it. So Kudos to you for stepping into this arena and also saying chief executive officer over here. Um,
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Like the idea that like you're growing a business, but in order to do so, you have to grow yourself. Like that resonates.
Yeah, I say to my clients, everybody in Silicon Valley say you got to have 3 to 5 business OKRs a year. Okay, well, what are your 3 to 5 leadership OKRs, right? Like if you need to be growing alongside that, you need to be the person that reimagining, needs 18 months from now. And so, it's hard to often do that work while you're doing the business work. But, a lot of the things you're talking about is about doing the work. So this is an ideal segue for this conversation I can't wait to have with you. So I listened to you on We Can Do Hard Things, which I'm assuming everybody that's going to watch this is listening to that. But in case you're not, that is like multi-hyphenate Abby Wambach, Glennon Doyle's podcast. It's phenomenal. I'm a podcast person. It's a top 5. It's all about, by the way, personal growth. So I actually think of it as a business podcast too. I don't know if they would, but I do. Anyway, so you were on it and you're talking about meditation. And as we're talking about how hard entrepreneurship is, um, I'm a big fan of presence based leadership or mindful leadership. And I think meditation is a big component of that, and really just maintaining presence so that you can be maximally resourceful when the things happen, when this is going to be too expensive and what do we do with this person. You really have to be like open and curious, and that comes from deep presence. Um, Meditation has to help on that journey. I would love to hear more about your practice and how you're seeing it potentially help you when you're running the business.
Yeah, I think of that moment when, you meet a problem with your business and it feels enormous and you don't know where to start and you get overwhelmed and you get like paralyzed by that. And so then like you can't do anything. And that is what that is like the antithesis of like a present moment like leader. That is what meditation hopefully makes those moments smaller and smaller and smaller as you become more able and clear-headed and solution oriented. Um, so I think like, how my kind of day usually works is I do a early morning work check-in with my team who's New York based. And then I have a whole morning like to afternoon phase of right now I'm doing physical therapy, but that would be practice. And then I do like an evening work check-in again. And what often happens is that I wake up and I immediately jump up and check on my company because they are 3 hours ahead of me. So the first thing I do is like get up and like run to my computer and it's like everything's going wrong and I'm like stressed out. And then it's like, how do I speak to people? How do I, how's my tone? How am I addressing things? And so the thing I love about meditation is it's just like it's like a discipline. So it's like instead of jumping from my bed and like coming here and like just like going nuts on everybody, it's like telling me that I'm a full human, that I have to be nourished to be able to nourish. And so there's this separation. It's like I go from my bed to my couch, I meditate. I'm thinking the whole time like what's going on with Bree, right? But I get that space. And then when I come, there's just perspective. It's like whatever happened with the business, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and meditate. It's going to be the same. So it might feel like this astronomical event that's going to destroy the business, but it's really just a small problem that gets addressed and things happen, and my meditation is so consistent that it's like no matter what happens, like I can come back to that. That's sort of like the mantra, and you can come back to this moment, and it allows problems that seem really big, like when you have to change your team and transition people out and find new talent and give people trust, these things that are really hard, it makes it feel less absolute, less final, because everything's transient and everything's changing, and you can make one decision and it be wrong because there's going to be another decision, and you have to make a decision. And sometimes, in order to make the right decision, you have to make the wrong one first. And so that's kind of what like present moment means to me. It's like understanding that I'm a full human. I need to be nourished. I need to be at my best to do my job. I'd rather do it in an hour and well than do it right now and poorly. And how do you fill up your cup so that you're constantly working at your optimal state?
I love all of that. In a nutshell, I call that leadership is an inside game, right? It's, you can't be a good leader of others if you don't first have your own great leadership program down, which it really sounds like you do. But I hope people that are listening will take this away. Um, I coach a lot of engineers, and sometimes when we talk about mindfulness or presence, they sort of go to the woo woo aspect, and that's amazing if meditation or mindfulness is part of somebody's spiritual experience. But what we're really talking about is neuroscience and neurobiology, right? And how to really like get in tune with what's happening in the moment and how to regulate your emotions and your mind. And so I feel like if more people understood that, we would have more entrepreneurs meditating. Somebody should create an entrepreneur specific app, right? Like meditation just for all the entrepreneurs that really need to understand that it's going to make you a better business leader. Talk to Christen
And
Press. She
then,
will tell
oh my
you.
gosh, I was going to say, and then whoever starts that, then they should get you for advice.
Okay, I'm in. That seemed great. Okay, so something else I talk with all my founders about is building a bench, right? So an entrepreneurial bench. This thing is hard. You said it before, like even people with 4 co-founders, 5 co-founders, 6 co-founders, you will hear the same thing. This is a lonely experience, right? And so why go it alone? And so I'm like, who's on your bench? Get a bench. I count as people's bench because I'm a coach. People that have nutritionists, that count. People that go and aren't experts at, digital marketing acquisition, go get an expert there. Peers that are also building companies so that you can kind of call each other and cry at night, right? Whatever you need, that's a bench. So we kind of know who's on the Angel City bench. I'm wondering about the entrepreneurship bench, and I don't mean names of people. I just mean like conceptually, like describers of have you kind of put a team together that's helpful for you in life.
Well, since I decided to be a CEO with absolutely no idea what I was doing or how to run a business or any business regimen or background, I have a very robust advisory board. Like it's, in the tens of people because I pretty much need an expert at every single thing because I bring expertise at soccer and maybe a little bit of like leadership and hard work and, like a lot of the untangibles, but I need knowledge and experience. So I look a lot for, female CEOs because I think that's really important for me to have that mentorship. I am working with someone that really helped in our pay equity lawsuit, Molly Levinson, because I think she gets that thing we were talking about, like the movement. That's kind of her role is like understanding the larger context of what we're doing. We have an amazing set of advisors that really helped us like build the brand ethos and the logo. So it's like anything like the finance. We have our co-founders that are, former, business owners, former investors. So the bench is huge because exactly
That's
what you said. It's like,
amazing.
yeah, and I need more
All
because
right,
that's the
so
best way to learn. Find someone
it
smarter than you,
is.
find someone who knows more than you, has done it longer. And I just try to extract as much as I possibly can and apply it, learn it in the morning, apply it in the afternoon.
I love that. And I think great entrepreneurs aren't afraid to, well, humility is right up there with resilience, I think. And it's really important to just know what you don't know. And then, the name of the game is just to be resourceful and find ways to know it, right? And so, that's in the realm of knowledge. And then again, there's other areas that also count as a bench, which would be, how are you taking care of yourself or your health and all of that stuff. But I think it's a really interesting concept for entrepreneurs to think about, like who's on their bench and like where do they need help, and to like not have any shame about it, right? To kind of like
Hmm.
celebrate the bench. um
Yeah,
so
I love what you said because I think of because I also as an athlete I have a big bench, like I have sports psychologist, nutritionist, physical therapist, like everything. But I never really thought of that from like my re-ink leadership side. Like I think, because I already have to take really good care of myself to
Yeah, so you
physically
have,
do my job
yeah.
as a soccer player. But I wonder if there's like gaps that I can even find of like my personal help that I could get to make sure I was well as I could be from like as a business leader. I think that's really important.
Great. I do too. I think it's really interesting. And I get that you sort of have like the health stuff covered, but there's other stuff, right? And one of the things that I'm happy that people are talking about more is coaching's become really popular, but people in the startup world are talking about mental health now more than ever in a way where I feel like it's really taken the stigma away, and I think it's a really important conversation. I know that conversation has been happening in sports too. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on maybe just our general destigmatization of mental health.
Yeah, a ton. This is like something I like. This is like a passion of mine because both in the business world and in the sports world, there's this like American culture of toughness that I think it's misconstrued. Um, because I think there's like a place for discipline, and not everything in your life is going to be enjoyable, and you're going to have to do hard things and get uncomfortable. But then there's this like glorification of suffering that, if you put your head down, you grind through it every day, and you hate your job, and you're just pushing yourself, that makes you tough, or that makes you a great athlete. And like in soccer, you have to physically push yourself to the point of suffering almost every time. But I believe in bliss when I play. I believe that I can reach those same levels of physical output without suffering if I mentally am stronger and like kind of a little bit more living at like a higher level of consciousness. I believe that I can use bliss and presence to not suffer and achieve those same things. I just think that the normal route is like normalizing suffering. And so people think that's what you have to do to get to this level, but I believe in another way. And I think that applies to startups too, like no boundaries, like no time off, always like that's not good. And I think part of what helps me so much is that like no matter what happens at Reinc, I have to put it down and focus for 4 hours during my day, like minimum on soccer. So no matter what's going on, I have that natural turn off. But everybody needs it. And you don't have to do another job. It's like work-life balance. I'm like work balance. But like you need something that's balanced. You need something that appreciates you as a full human. And I think that it's important that the conversation has evolved. And I think we have to stop glorifying like being miserable and as working really hard, because you can work extremely hard and take it with bliss, and you have to have discipline, and it's not always going to be easy, but you can do it healthily and joyfully. And I really fundamentally believe you'll go further if you do.
I loved all of that. I practice something called positive intelligence, which basically is everything that you just said wrapped up. I'm a big believer that entrepreneurship does not have to be synonymous with suffering. So I really appreciate that message. I hope that everybody that's listening is appreciative of that message. I feel like I want to go talk to you for an hour just on that topic because it's so important, and I feel like not enough people have made this shift yet. Okay, we've been talking for a while. This has been amazing. Is there anything we haven't talked about relating to Reinc that you want to let us know?
Well, we do have our upcoming collection. It's secret right now, but it's coming up in November, and we're also going to be doing a retail pop-up that I'm going to be at in New York City sometime in November. So hopefully the New York people will be able to see some of my community, and you can come out and check out our business for Inc.
Okay, so how do we know this? We follow you on Instagram. What's your handle?
re-website.com. Re-Inc is on social. Christen Press, I pretty much repost everything for Re-Inc, so it's basically like the same account.
Okay. And then we want everybody to go sign up and get a membership to this amazing, forward-thinking, big movement that's gonna help make the world a better place. Like, I love it. Like, make no small plans, Christen Press. You have gone big.
Going big. You can do that at our website, rewebsite.com.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.